Good morning, everybody. This is Andrea Lucy from Prader-Willi Syndrome Association of the USA, and I am with the Mulder family. Welcome. I will let you all introduce yourselves.
Hi, Andrea. I am Judy Mulder, and I am grandma to Natalie Vanderbrook and Rosie Brower, who both have PWS.
I am Erica Brower, mom to Rosie Brower.
And I am Becca Vanderbrook, and Natalie is my daughter. So let's just start by talking about the beginning, about when Natalie just when Natalie maybe was diagnosed. I'll start. So Natalie was born normal, like a fairly typical birth. I had a few random complications. The cord was wrapped around her head for a bit. So when she was born, they told me that that's why, she was kind of flappy and she didn't respond quite like my other two kids had. We went home and she sort of stayed floppy and didn't want to eat. I was waking her up all the time. Eventually that led to an admission to the children's hospital. So we were in the children's hospital for not too many days. I remember the geneticist coming in and saying, well, I think it might be this thing called Prader-Willi syndrome. Do you want to hear about that? And my husband, Scott, and I were both like, nope, don't want to hear about anything until we have to hear about it. So we didn't. I didn't even Google or do anything. Then the next day, he came and told us that it indeed was. And then we heard about it. I don't have a terrible, terrible diagnosis story like some people do. He was fairly positive, really, with the diagnosis. He gave me the hope. Maybe I'm just a positive person, so that's what I clung to. I don't know, but I didn't feel like he was real negative, like I think is pretty typical. So it was quite devastating. However, I think it was more devastating for Scott and I. I think everybody else, or a lot of other people, our families are super close. I think a lot of other people thought that maybe Natalie wouldn't make it. They had all of these, different problems that could have been wrong. I think God sort of shielded me from even thinking that Natalie wouldn't make it. So when she was diagnosed, it was a big, like, oh my goodness, so this isn't going to go away. I just had sort of assumed that it would go away. Yeah, that's pretty much my experience.
Yeah, I remember that day well. We were actually at the hospital when the geneticist came in to give the diagnosis.
Yeah,
and so we took, Becca had two other boys at that time, and we took them out in the hallway for a little bit of a walk to give them privacy. And when we came back, they told us the news, and I think my initial reaction was relief. Because there was a diagnosis. And so it was like, oh, good, we have answers. And then I think it was fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
And, I think that was, and being the mom of a daughter going through it, I was fearful for them and how they would be challenged and their family would be challenged. But I also was very confident that you guys could handle it, and knew that you would have an outpouring of support with your family and extended family and friends. And so I was confident that you guys would do well. And then your sisters, I think, too, were also confident.
Yeah, I'll never forget that day either. We were actually at our cottage at the time, so I was with our other sisters, and we were like, we were devastated, but yet happy because we got to keep her. We were worried that something more serious was happening, so it was like oh good, we have a diagnosis, we can start, we can go from here. But yeah, when Rosie was born, it's a very different diagnosis story for me. When she was born, the very first thing I said, like they showed her to me and I was like, oh my, she looks different than my other girls. That was the first words out of my mouth. And then from there on, she wouldn't really eat or breastfeed. And I kind of felt like something was wrong. And then a doctor came in, I think on day 2, and was just like, oh, you know, there might be some genetic things happening here. And then that's pretty much all they did. And they sent me home that way. And she wouldn't eat much. Anyway, we took her into the pediatrician and asked for blood work because I knew something was wrong. And then, I don't know how many days later, we got the diagnosis, and it was more of I already knew what PWS was, so I didn't really have.
Yeah, because Natalie was 2, almost 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost 2.
So yeah, I didn't really have. I mean, I grieved the child that I thought was going to be, you know, a normal life. But I knew what had to be done, and thankfully I had Becca and my mom who did all of this already. So I knew the doctors I had to see, and it was a lot different. Yeah, it was just a very different. She's never been admitted to a hospital, not even to this day. I knew I had to feed her, and I mean, I fed that girl for 45 minutes every single time with a bottle. So I knew it had to be done, thankfully, because, you know, I had a sister who already did this 2 years ago. So, yeah, that was.
I think we always, when Rosie was diagnosed, we would talk and be like, you know, in a way you feel bad for Erica because she didn't get that awe factor. And that sounds bad, but you didn't get that shock of because everyone's like, oh, it's PWS. Well, we know what that is and what that's going to be.
Yeah.
You know, so good or bad, but huge blessings that came in already knowing that, hey, I can do this.
Yeah.
Even though I know when Natalie got her diagnosis, we were all very confident that Becca and Scott would do well, and we were all confident that Keith and Erica would too, but Erica would.
I did not have that confidence. I was very thankful for a sister who had already done it. She's way better.
She's not way better.
Advocating for the right things and knowing, you know, she sought out what Natalie needed right away. So thankfully, I mean, I knew exactly what I had to do because of that. So I felt very lucky for that because I did not feel very confident in raising a special needs child. I didn't think I could do it. That was probably my hardest thing. Like, okay, I know what PWS is, but I don't know if I can be a good advocate for her. And I don't know if I can love her. I can do that. But the advocacy part for me was probably the most difficult for me.
I just must have made it look really hard. Really hard.
No, you didn't.
No, I think that, you know, like one of the things, it was really weird for me. I will never forget when Erica called me. I was outside playing with my kids. She called me. I didn't believe it. We live in sort of a small town. We both go to the same doctor's office. And I thought, they just ran that test, the same test, and it told them what they wanted to. It took me probably an hour or two to say, that's not a thing. This really is the same thing. And then I sort of had guilt because I was kind of pumped. I mean, I had a feeling that something was going on with Rosie, and I had the same things that probably all of you guys had with Natalie. I was like, oh, all the Googling that I was doing was certainly much scarier than PWS. So this is awesome. And Natalie will have somebody forever and ever. And I had so much guilt because I was just like sort of excited about it. And I had confidence. I knew that Erica and Keith could do it. And I knew that Natalie was so awesome, and I was excited to have another, you know, happy toddler just like her. So it was sort of strange for me. I remember feeling very guilty about how glad I was that Rosie had PWS, because you don't really wish that.
No, you don't wish that diagnosis.
You certainly don't wish that, but you know, if it's going to be something, which I was quite confident that it was going to be
Well,
something.
we actually, while we were waiting for results with Rosie's blood work, I remember you and I had both been Googling,
Yeah.
searching what could this be, and like you said, a lot of other scary diagnoses came up. And we kept joking, like, our computer keeps going, bringing it back to Prader-Willi syndrome. That can't be. It just knows that that's, you know, been in our search. It knows us because, you know.
We discounted it every single time it came up.
We said, well, we know it's something,
Yeah.
but there's no way it's that. And so, yeah, that it was.
That's crazy.
It was quite the shock when.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's fun to see the two of them together.
Yes.
And Rosie's 3, Natalie's 5, and they have a cute little special bond. And I mean, they're very lucky to have each other, and we're lucky to have each other.
Yes, I think at the cottage, we have a family cottage that we spend a lot of time at. And a lot of times it's a little crazy. There's 15 cousins. And if it gets overwhelming, you'll see Natalie and Rosie kind of go off together, play babies inside.
Yeah.
And they just need their little baby dolls, and the rest of the kids are being wild and crazy outside, and they just sometimes they will break. So it's pretty cool to see that bond and that relationship and how they'll always have.
Yeah, there are so many times when you just look at the two of them when we're doing, you know, when we get to they both go to a hippotherapy, and it's quite far away. It's an hour drive for us to get them there, and Weez and I get this nice little break, you know, to hang with each other and have just our 2 girls with us. Grandma watches the kids that aren't in school, and you know, I just think, God, what if I didn't have Erica to go with me on all, you know, what if I had that long hour drive there and back all by myself? It just wouldn't be near as fun.
No.
Well, and it's a great time for you guys to kind of talk about things too that are going on with the girls.
Yeah.
And now that they're both in school,
Yep.
there's different challenges and things that you know come up as they get older. Things change, but so it's also good for you guys to have that little time that you can actually have a conversation too.
Mm-hmm.
But
and it's cool to see what PWS has brought into your life. Like, neither of us cared for horses. And now the girls are doing hippotherapy, and I have 3 other girls who love horses and are doing riding lessons. And I've learned a lot.
And that never would have
horses.
happened without PWS and going to hippotherapy. That was where that love was cultivated.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is kind of a cool.
That is really cool.
I also think it's great. Not only that Natalie and Rosie have each other and you guys and Scott and Keith as parents, but I think another blessing is for your other kids, the siblings. Henrik and Ruben and Vince and Rylan and Penny and Jolene will always have each other, and their cousins who are all pretty much the same age. They all have one that's the same age, knows exactly what they're going through and how they feel.
Yeah. And they don't even see that yet.
No.
But when they get older, it'll be really nice. And they might not even think it's, you know, they kind of, right now, I feel like they think they live a pretty normal life, which we do.
Yeah.
But it'll be nice when they're older and they can talk to each other about things if they want. And so that's a huge thing to be thankful for.
And you know, going beyond that, even cousins, you know, the other cousins, and how they look out for these girls and are so proud of your girls and would do anything for them. And aunts and uncles again too. Just very blessed with family. and our community, like you say,
Yeah.
the small town and our church family, just they love on those girls, and to see how much joy Natalie and Rosie bring to others.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Natalie especially, she's a little bit older, so she's a little bit, you know, has more relationships, but just certain relationships with people at church, and you know that she just is a blessing at 5.
Yeah. Probably more than we even know. I mean, some of the ones, I'm sure the one that you're talking about is just, it warms the rest of our hearts to see that someone could just know so much about a person's emotions and what they need when they need it, you know.
She's very aware.
She just knows him and knows what he needs. And it's so special.
It is.
It is. And that is not, you know, God makes all kids different and everybody has different personalities, but it's not one that is innately in any of my other kids, certainly not my older 2, you know. And so it's just a very special thing that she has going for her, and that it is. It's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, and you know, it makes you excited to see what God has planned for her future and what direction, you know, she'll go, and Rosie, because that, you know, Rosie and Natalie both with the same diagnosis, but yet uniquely different.
Oh yeah,
like all other kids, but they both have gifts, and they both have different things that they struggle with, and but yet, there's that tie and that bond that keeps them together, and will always be there for them too.
Yeah, you were talking about cousins and our family. Our family is super close. So Erica and I are of 4 girls. And so we were all sisters, and we're still really quite close. We all sort of had kids at the same time. And all of our kids are very close. They all go to the same small school. But I joke about it sometimes, because even some of the other cousins who don't live with Prader-Willi syndrome in their home, I still feel like they can't get away from it, in that no matter which aunt and uncle they're with, you know, it seems like you have either Natalie or Rosie, and their lives are different too, you know. I mean, and it's not just about food necessarily, but it's so interesting to see how in tune even those cousins are when it comes to Natalie and Rosie, and making sure they're safe around food, especially.
Yeah, and a niece that said, you know, oh, Natalie is riding the bus, and she was very concerned about Natalie riding the bus.
We were.
And she's just got, I mean, her eyes are always out, looking like, oh, I don't know if that's safe. Like, are you sure you want to send her on the bus? She's not riding the bus, but anyway, she's just very.
She was concerned about it.
Yeah, she's very concerned.
Well, and we weren't sure really why she was so concerned, because Natalie rode a bus when she was 4, but she rode a bus with, you know, she was strapped in, and she rode a different kind of bus. It's not like we just put her on a regular bus. And she, to Lucy, she was like, Natalie's on a bus? And we were like, yeah, Natalie rides the bus. And she said, there's food everywhere on the bus. She can't ride a bus. And, you know, it's funny because we all knew that Natalie was safe and that she probably wouldn't be able to ride a regular bus. But Lucy was like, are you people nuts? Why would you let her do that?
And she was very concerned.
It's so amazing. And, you know, she's got that doubly. She does the same things for Rosie.
She also has, like, a lot of our nieces and nephews, they have a heart for special needs kids now.
Yes.
And they wouldn't have had that, I don't think.
No, maybe not. You're right.
They didn't have cousins.
Yes, it's been very obvious, and the older cousins, that they do have a heart for
Yeah.
special needs kids. And, you know, I think, you know, looking back, and Dad and I have talked about this, how it opened our world, having, you know, once Natalie was born, Dad will often say, you know, I'm ashamed of some of my thought process before, because you know, you assume everyone's somewhat alike, and you know,
And everyone has the same capabilities.
everyone has the same capabilities, and so having the diagnosis, I think, definitely opened our world and our passion up to those with special needs. And you know, the PWSA community is, I mean, they just hold a special place in my heart. Going to conference, Becca and I went when Natalie was 4 months old, right? I think
3.
Yeah, 3
3
months
months
old was our first one. And wow, what a blessing for Becca to connect with all these moms that she was Facebook friends with in a group, but then to be able to be there together in person. And I was able to connect with grandparents. That was cool.
Yeah.
And then you went right away, I believe, your first year to the conference, didn't you?
I don't remember
Yeah.
how old she was.
I think she was, 6 months or
Probably,
so. But and you just found that group of friends. And so what a gift, what a blessing that greater community has been. And those are people that without PWS we would never have in our lives.
And even though we do have each other in a great family, it's so nice to meet other moms that go through the exact same thing you're going through, and you can stay connected through Facebook or whatever. And it's been awesome. And we wouldn't have had that without the PWS community.
Yeah, I remember when Natalie was diagnosed, I think I even said, you know, she has Prader-Willi syndrome, but we're not going to join the club. Like, we're not joining any kind of clubs. We're still going to be us, you know. And I was very hesitant, and I was gifted the scholarship to go when Natalie was 3 months old, and I had mixed feelings about it. I wanted to go so that I could learn about PWS, but I did not want to go to meet other people. I was and I'm a people person. I'm a people person, but I was very guarded. I didn't want to join the club. I said that so many times. And man, I think that I got more out of meeting other people than I did out of the learning that I got there. I did get a lot of learning too, you know, I mean, that really.
And that was hard.
That was hard. That was hard.
The diagnosis, so that it was a.
But also, I mean, it really set us on track for Natalie and her future. If I wouldn't have gone to conference, I'm not 100% sure I would have jumped on all of the treatments and stuff when I did. Right. But when I went to conference and I met the people who would care for her, and that I learned it was worth making the trip. Yeah. And I mean, I was having trouble with growth hormone initially. I could not get Natalie on growth hormone. We had bad local endos who just didn't get it. And I just felt like, well, I guess, you know, I'll have to, I knew I needed her on growth hormone, but I didn't realize that actually there was the easiest route. And it was just, I mean, within a month I had her on growth hormone. You know, I flew her to Dr. Miller in Florida, and I felt like 3 weeks after conference, I got right back on a plane and we went right to see Dr. Miller and got her on growth hormone. And that really started the trajectory of where we went treating Natalie. You know, before then,
helped guide that.
Before then, I was sort of standoffish. I wanted to think about everything really and really know and really be sure. And yeah, it was definitely
and
that.
That also led you to great local endos now.
Yeah, well, not really local, but it led us to knowing that it was worth driving this across this, state to get an endo that knew what he was doing. Yeah. And then when Rosie was born, it was like, well, I know all the people, just call this person, this person, this person. Rosie was probably on it before she was a month old.
At 7 weeks old.
Yeah.
And I think Natalie was 4 months.
4 months because she didn't until we got home.
Until
from
we
Dr.
went
Miller.
with conference, yeah,
Yeah.
so that was, yes, and those relationships go on, and I've been
Yeah.
to 3 conferences
Yeah,
now, you've
yeah.
been to a couple, you've
Yeah.
been to a couple, but, yeah, and they're great, the community is amazing, so we
Yeah.
beyond blessed by that greater community,
Yeah.
and thankful for the people who are committed to it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we can say what we want, but there's a lot of blessings within.
Definitely.
You know, it doesn't mean that it's not hard at times and challenging at times and tiring at times, but a lot of blessings throughout too. So
Yeah.
have to
Yeah, I think
thank
that
you for all of that.
we kind of touched on this, but I think that Natalie and Rosie both made our families as a whole, all together as an extended family, but also just our individual families and our individual kids better. You know, I
For
mean,
sure.
we're all better people because we know Natalie and Rosie.
Yeah, we say that
And-
all the time.
And my kids are infinitely better people because they know Natalie and Rosie.
Mhm.
And that's something that you can't, I mean, that's a blessing that people who don't go through, any child with special needs probably, they'll never understand.
Right.
You know, they just, and we didn't understand until
Right,
it was us.
right,
So
yeah.
that is probably, yeah, that's a very, very big blessing.
Well, pretty awesome.
Yeah.